Breaking news! The Ravens are at a crossroads, and what's happening behind the scenes might just shake the foundation of this franchise. After a devastating loss in prime time, something doesn't feel right, and it's not just the scoreboard. From questionable coaching decisions to stars underperforming, to whispers about a broken identity, Ravens fans are starting to ask the hard questions. Is this team still who we thought they were? But before we move on, make sure you hit that like button if you're a true Ravens fan. It's always amazing to see fans of all ages supporting this team. And if you feel like it, comment, "Go Ravens," down below. Let's talk about what went down, and more importantly, why it feels like this loss wasn't just a game, but a warning sign. From the start, this matchup against the Lions was hyped as a battle between two franchises trying to prove they're elite. One walked off the field looking ready for a postseason push. The other left the stadium with more questions than answers. And unfortunately, it was the Ravens who were outplayed and outcoached under the bright lights. One of the loudest calls after the loss has been for defensive coordinator Zach Orr's job. And you know what? It's not even an overreaction at this point. Through his first 22 games, the defense has looked lost more often than dominant. Of those 22 games, you could argue only 6 or 7 were truly solid performances. The rest? Ugly, confused, passive, and now, after another game where the Ravens defense got pushed around, fans are asking why it feels like 2022 all over again. No sacks, 0, against the Lions team that gave you chances. Mike Green dropping into coverage constantly, wide open zones over the middle, and a defensive front that couldn't generate pressure if their season depended on it. The loss of players like Kyle Van Noy and Odefoe is a factor, sure, but this wasn't just about injuries. This was about being outcoached and out-schemed. And if Zach Orr isn't on the hot seat yet, maybe he should be. Offensively, it wasn't much better. And the name at the center of the storm is Derrick Henry. Is he washed? That's the second major overreaction circulating right now. And while it's easy to point to his fumbles, 3 in 3 games, 2 in critical fourth-quarter moments, the bigger issue might be in the trenches. When Henry gets a hole, he still looks explosive. That opening drive against Detroit showed us that. But after that, 14 yards on the ground the rest of the game. Combine that with just 23 yards the week before in Cleveland, and you're talking about a man who's run for 37 yards in over 7 quarters. That's alarming. But the O-line has to take some of the heat. They're not winning at the point of attack, not creating space. This isn't all on Henry. He's still got juice, but the Ravens need to clean up protection and stop shooting themselves in the foot with missed blocks and blown assignments. Henry isn't washed, but he needs help, fast. Now here's the part that's hitting fans hardest, the identity crisis. This used to be a team built on toughness, smash-mouth football, Baltimore grit, play like a Raven meant something. But right now, that identity feels like a distant memory. The Ravens of old would never go down quietly. They'd never let 2 of their first 3 games end with the ball in their hands and no ability to make a play. This version of the Ravens, they look like a team unsure of itself on both sides of the ball. And yes, that goes back to the head coach. John Harbaugh, a man who's led this team for over a decade, is beginning to look like a coach whose message might not be hitting the same way anymore. The Lions, they play fast, physical, inspired football. Why? Because they reflect their head coach. And that's the problem. If this team is a reflection of Harbaugh right now, it's a reflection of complacency, of softness. That's not Baltimore football. That's not what the city demands. But here's the real kicker. Despite all the anger, the frustration, and the overreactions, this team is still good. The talent is there. The ceiling is high. The locker room has leaders. But something has to change, and fast. Whether it's a schematic shift, a new tone in the locker room, or just a moment of accountability, the Ravens can't keep sliding. Which brings us to Kansas City. Next week's matchup at Arrowhead isn't just another game. It's a defining moment, because if the Ravens fall to 1-3, this season's trajectory changes completely. All offseason, the narrative was clear: survive the gauntlet of the first 4 weeks. 2-2 was the goal. Now, that's the only acceptable outcome. Because let's be honest, this isn't just about beating Kansas City. This is about rediscovering who the Baltimore Ravens are supposed to be. This team doesn't just need a win. It needs an identity check, a shot of adrenaline, a moment where the locker room comes together, not just to survive, but to prove something. The Ravens haven't beaten the Chiefs in Kansas City since Mahomes took over. Every time these two teams meet, it feels like a test, and too often, Baltimore fails. Whether it's late game collapses, turnovers, or just being outclassed, Kansas City has been a wall the Ravens haven't figured out how to climb. But if there's ever a time to do it, it's now. Because if not now, when? This locker room, stacked with talent, Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, Roquan Smith, Justin Matabike, they aren't built to be average. They're built to contend. but the mental edge is missing. They're playing like a team waiting for something to click, waiting for someone else to make a play, waiting for a spark. And that spark has to come this week. Let's talk about Lamar. He's not the problem, but he's also not the solution right now. This team is at its best when Lamar plays loose, fast, and confident. But when he's hesitant, when the play calling is stale, when protection breaks down, when he's trying to force a throw on 3rd and long with nobody open, that's when the offense stalls. And what about the wide receivers? Zay Flowers showed flashes. Rashad Bateman is trying to stay healthy and consistent. Nelson Aguilar has had moments. But where's the killer instinct? Where's the game-breaking play? This receiving core was supposed to be the best Lamar has had. Now's the time to prove it. The run game has to wake up too. J.K. Dobbins' absence looms large, but this is why Derrick Henry was brought in. To finish games, to control tempo, to punish defenses late in the fourth. Instead, he's coughing up the ball in critical moments. That simply can't happen, not against Kansas City. Not with your season teetering on the edge. Defensively, it's time for the stars to shine. Roquan Smith needs to be the heartbeat of this team again. Kyle Hamilton has to be the game changer. And the front seven? It needs to make Mahomes uncomfortable. That's how you win an Arrowhead. Not by playing scared, not by sitting back in soft zone, and not by dropping edge rushers into coverage. The Ravens defense looks confused. The scheme is vanilla. And once again, that points right back at Zach Orr. He's not getting the best out of his guys. He's not adjusting. And in today's NFL, that gets you beat. If there's no turnaround against Kansas City, don't be surprised if conversations about his future get even louder. And if Baltimore does fall to 1-3, what then? How much faith will the locker room still have in Harbaugh? This isn't just about coaching anymore. It's about belief. Do these players believe in the system, in the message, in the leadership? Because right now, from the outside looking in, it doesn't feel like they do. This game is going to tell us everything. If the Ravens lose, and it's another flat performance, that's not a coincidence. That's a trend. That's a problem. But if they come out swinging, if they go punch for punch with the Chiefs and walk out with a win, suddenly, this team is 2-2 with momentum and belief heading into a very winnable stretch. Everything changes with this game. Because here's the truth, this isn't just a bad start to the season. It feels like a slow unraveling of what the Ravens were built on. The losses, they hurt. But it's the way they're losing that stings the most. The body language, the lack of fire, the absence of identity. That's not Ravens football. And yet, there's still a glimmer of hope. Because buried beneath the frustration is a team that can turn it around. But the turnaround has to start now. Not in week 6. Not when it's too late. Now, the Kansas City game is more than a week 4 matchup. It's a chance to reset the narrative. To walk into one of the toughest stadiums in the NFL and announce to the world, we're still here. It's about proving that the fight isn't gone. That the physicality, the grit, the pride, everything that used to define the Ravens isn't lost. It's just been buried. And it's time to dig it up. So the challenge is clear. Beat Mahomes. Beat Reed. Beat Arrowhead. Not just to save the record, but to save the season. To save the locker room. To remind everyone watching that Baltimore still knows how to respond when its back is against the wall. Because if they fall again, and the same mistakes show up, soft zone coverages, missed assignments, no pass rush, no identity, it won't just be the fans calling for change. It will come from inside the building. There's no more room for moral victories. No more time for almosts. This team needs to step into that stadium with fire in their hearts and a chip on their shoulders. The Ravens were built for moments like this. Now they have to prove they still belong on this stage. Let's see who they really are. What do you think, Ravens fans? Is this team ready to rise, or are we watching a contender slowly fall apart? Drop your thoughts in the comments.